Well, good evening and welcome to the Ordinary Meeting of the Council of Wellington Shire on this Tuesday, the 21st of July 2020. We'll start the process with the roll call. So here, let's see how we go. Councillor Crosley, you're here?
Yes, I'm here and I can hear you.
Councillor McCubbin?
Yes, I'm here, Mayor, and I can hear you.
Councillor Stevens?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I can not only hear you, I can see you.
Well, good job that. Councillor Ripper?
Yes, Mayor, hear and see.
And we can hear you too. Councillor Bye?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here and I can hear you.
Councillor Hole?
Councillor Hole.
Councillor Hole?
Hello, Councillor Hole.
In the meantime...
Sorry, I was on dumb.
That's called mute.
Yeah, I can. Well, I did answer, but you didn't react. Yes, I'm here. I heard you, and I won't turn it off again.
Thanks, Councillor Hole. Councillor Rossetti?
I'm not on mute or on dumb. I can hear you and I can see you.
And I think I've covered everybody. CEO's present?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. So if we move on to the usual sort of process that we need to talk about. So as the COVID-19 social distancing requirements remain in place, the Minister for Local Government has issued the Minister's Good Practice Guidelines, MGPG-1, virtual meetings, pursuant to Section 87 of the Local Government Act 2020. These guidelines ensure that local government decision-making can continue in line with COVID-19 requirements, and further details can be found on the Local Government Victoria website. These guidelines have taken effect from the 1st of May 2020 and will remain in place through the 1st of November 2020. While members of the public can no longer attend meetings in person, we have provided options for you to interact with us virtually via our council meeting page on the Wellington Shire Council website. You are able to interact with Councillor in two ways. By emailing through a specific question or comment relating to a particular council agenda item, and that should have been by no later than 1 p.m. on the day of the council meeting, or for general communication with council via the webcasting chat room early in the meeting to ensure that your submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. While we face a new way of gathering, we thank you for your continued support and look forward to a new way of keeping in touch with all of Wellington Shire. If we move on then to the statement of acknowledgement and the prayer, and with the current virtual meetings, there is no need to stand for this. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai-Kurnai people, and pay respect to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result in the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen.
Amen.
We have one apology from Councillor Marr that I'm aware of, and clearly our continuing thoughts are with Councillor Marr and her family at this time. Moving on, no other apologies obviously. Moving on to declarations of conflicts of interest. Councillor Crosley, I believe you have one.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to declare on item C4.2, MaCarthur Street, Market Street, Roundabout construction, I have an indirect conflict of interest due to residential amenity.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. Moving on to item A4, the confirmation of minutes of the previous council meeting. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the Ordinary Council meeting of the 7th of July 2020.
I have a seconder for that motion. Councillor Rossetti. Thank you, Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye.
No, all good.
Thank you. There's no business arising from the previous meeting, CEO?
None, Mayor.
No late items?
None, Mayor.
Moving on to item A7, Part 1, Notice of Motion, Locksport Erosion. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I would like to move that Council write to the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio, MP, Minister for Energy, Environment and Climate Change, requesting urgent action to address coastal erosion issues on the Crown land areas adjacent to Seagull Drive, Locksport.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. That's seconded by Councillor Crosley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion's carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for your support for this motion. I think if you look at the photos that were distributed, Mr Mayor, to some extent this whole project is self-explanatory of what's happening there, and I'd like to thank the member for Gippsland South, our local member, Mr Danny O'Brien, for the action he's also taken in writing to the Minister. But it's interesting to note, Mayor, that if you read the Marine and Coastal Policy, there's not a lot of confidence there or indication of leadership by the state government to actually address issues relating to coastal hazards. But I'd just like to make the observation that the actions of the state government actually speak louder than words, because they've shown by work that they've done on the Inverloch foreshore to keep the Inverloch Coast Road open. And recently I noticed that Upper House member Jane Garrett made announcements to fund projects, I think, on Bullock Island at Lakes Entrance, and also to do work on the seawall at Malakuta. And those projects and funding made available by the state government give me hope that the Minister will take notice of this current problem at Locksport, and will take some urgent action to fix up what is in fact, of course, Crown land. I think we need to stipulate that this area that's being eroded is in fact Crown land. So I thank the Council for their support, and I hope that the Minister will take notice of our representations on behalf of the community of Locksport and the wider community. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. There's no outstanding petitions.
No, Mayor.
Item A9, invited addresses, presentations or acknowledgements. We have nothing under that category.
No, Mayor.
No questions on notice.
No.
Moving on to item A11, the Mayor and Councillors' activity report. And before we move to this, could I just make a couple of comments before we move on? Clearly, with the current while the current restrictions impact on the way we operate, I want to actually thank all of the councillors for the ongoing contribution they're making, and at the same time acknowledge the difficulties and the pressures that our community is under. Now, clearly, it's not my place to provide any alternative advice in regard to the pandemic, other than to reinforce the importance of listening to and following the directions of our relevant political and healthcare professionals and those charged with the responsibility of leading us through these unprecedented times. However, in this space, I would like to draw your attention to a report that came to Council at our last meeting. That report was called Council's Response to COVID-19. And note that the Wellington Shire Council, along with partners, are in the process of developing a Wellington COVID-19 municipal recovery plan. This is the space we find ourselves in the disaster management space, to deal with both the community, social and the economic impacts. And we've set up a Wellington COVID-19 Recovery Committee with an economic and social subgroups that is engaging with sector participants. Arguably, Wellington is good at this, and as we all know, we have faced our fair share of disaster management experiences. Interestingly, we've been actually approached to share our work with other organisations, as clearly our approach is more developed than generally available. We'll keep our community informed about what we'll be doing as in the recovery space is where our role sits. But in the meantime, please follow the advice being issued, follow the rules, stay safe. Councillor Rossetti, you'd like to move that report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move that the Mayor and Councillor activity report be noted.
This is seconded by Councillor Hole.
Second, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Hole. Councillor Rossetti?
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks for making that mention. People are responding to this emergency in many varied ways, as has been the case with other emergencies that we've faced with fire and flood. And Council's involvement is at the grassroots level, and is a very important involvement. Obviously, like with fire and flood, we don't have a direct response to the emergency itself, but we're there to help the community as best we can. And I'm really pleased to be seeing the sorts of things done that you're very involved with trying to work out how we can support our families, our community through these times. The Mayor and Councillor Activity Report itself does show, of course, that even through these times, there's lots of just the normal business of council taking place. So thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for supporting that notation.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. There's no delegates reports, I believe.
None, Mayor.
We move on to item C1.1, the Chief Executive Officer's Report. Councillor McCubbin.
Yes, indeed. Mayor, I'd like to move that the Chief Executive Officer's report be received.
Seconded by Councillor Bye. You're on mute, Councillor Bye.
Happy to second.
Yes, Mayor, I'm happy to second that.
No, I think it's actually seconded by Councillor Rossetti in the interim, so that's done as well. Is that opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you very much. And look, a really busy time for the CEO through this very difficult time that we all find ourselves. Even though we're obviously COVID's caused us to change our business practice quite a bit. There's a number of issues which I'm really pleased that the CEO is advancing. Quite naturally, the Timber Task Force has been meeting regularly. The meeting with Pace Advertising is really interesting, that a creative agency looking at Business Boost campaign. I know that's something that councillors are really interested in, and after the briefing that we all had today, I'm very positive about the way they are looking to try to project the Shire into the future to develop a local business, which I think is really, really good. Of course, One Gippsland, looking the combination of that, and the CEO has been working pretty close on that as well. So look, just want to note that even though we're in COVID-19, the CEO is working really hard. I'd like to thank him and the officers for their dedication through this time. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin. Move on to item C1.2, the June 2020 Council Performance Report. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that Council receive and note the June 2020 Council Performance Report as attached.
It's seconded by Councillor Ripper.
Correct, I'll second that, Mayor.
Is that opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This performance report is slightly unusual, and it's noted in the agenda, Mr Mayor, that of course the overview of council finances for the financial year have been held over until the council officers have actually done an update for the end of the financial year. And once that work's been done, we will have a full financial report. But in the meantime, there's a number of actually highlights for the month that have been undertaken. I note with interest that we're working on the detailed designs for the Hayfield Youth Play Precinct, and I can remember when we had a very impressive presentation to council, and I'm not exactly sure how long ago that was now, but that was with the young students from Hayfield who wanted work done on their skateboard park, and I hope that this work that we're undertaking will meet their needs, and I see that we're going to hopefully complete that project by November 2020. Also, I note that I went for a drive along Belong Road the other day, where we've actually just spent money on the Fixing Up Country Roads program, and that road is excellent now. The road's been widened. It's a very busy regional road that services McLaughlin's Beach and also the back road to Woodside Beach, and that's now turned what was in some respects a rather narrow road into a pleasure to drive on. I just also note and just support Councillor McCubbin's comments. It's very interesting to see what is happening with the marketing and business campaign that our advertising agency Pace is starting to work on, and they've just been engaging with the community and with our local BTAs to come up with ideas, and I think we're going to have, from memory, an initial program in September which is going to be really good. Also, I'd just like to comment on the fact that it's great to see that we've been able to reopen the Visitor Information Centre in the gallery in these rather difficult times, and I hope we can continue to be able to keep our facilities open. It's clearly a very difficult time for Melbourne, and I think of those people, and it's good that we've got a little bit more freedom. And I'd just like to comment when we talk about the gallery, the Art Aid Fund that we gave over $161,000 to the Gippsland Emergency Relief Fund. What a wonderful project that was, Mr. Mayor. And our staff are to be commended for the work they did on that project, and also thank you again to all those people that donated artwork and helped us get to this wonderful figure of $161,000, which we were able to give for local relief. The community managed facility strategy, which we've just adopted, that's now in the process of being rolled out, and that's going to give great support to all the community facilities that we have committees managing. Give them support, and I can never resist the temptation to comment on the fact that we are also giving funds to Crown Land Reserve Committees of Management, halls and reserves, because without the support that we give them at the Wellington Shire Council, they're likely to get no funds at all from the state government. And the last thing I'd just like to comment on is that there's a number of capital works programs in progress. Probably the biggest one, of course, is the Cameron Sporting Complex, and all these programs are going along very well. So I think that we've had a very successful year for the last financial year, Mr. Mayor, and it's yes, and thanks again to our staff for all their hard work. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Stevens. I just looked at the conversation panel, and there is the possibility, and I don't recall whether, in fact, in regard to the mayor's activity, the mayor and councillors' activity report, whether in fact I followed due process in those circumstances. I'm happy to
move it again, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. I said I don't recall whether I did or didn't. So in those circumstances, you're happy to move that report, Councillor Rossetti?
Item A11, I'm happy to move the mayor and councillor activity report be noted. And
Councillor Hole, you're happy to re-second that again?
Yes, Mayor.
So on those circumstances, is that report opposed?
Or the motion opposed?
Is the motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried, and we've already had the discussion.
I think you did do it, Mr. Mayor.
But
I remember seconding it. So
yeah. So look, I may have failed in that. So if not, we've done it twice. We're better than not doing it properly in the first place. So
yeah, twice is better than not at all.
Twice is better than not at all. And if I've got that wrong, my apologies. Moving on to item C, 2.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move the council note and receive the attached Assembly of Councillor records for the period 2nd of July 2020 to the 12th of July 2020.
It's seconded by Councillor McCubbin.
Indeed so.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye?
Nothing there, Mayor.
Thank you. Moving on to item C 2.2, approval of draft governance rules and amended local law 1 for public consultation. Councillor McCubbin.
Yes, indeed, Mayor. I'd like to move the council resolve to advertise the new draft governance rules, including election period policy and draft amended local law number 1 as attached, in order to seek community feedback for a period of 28 days from the 22nd of July 2020 to the 19th of August 2020.
That's seconded by Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor McCubbin.
Yes, indeed. Look, I don't expect that people will rush off and read this, but you should. You absolutely should. This is the rules of the game. This is how we engage ourselves with our local constituency. And look, we're very proud at the Wellington Shire that our openness and transparency is listed as one of the best in the state. I know the local government minister some years ago commented on that. But look, there are ways we can do things better, and this local law number 1 sets out that rules of engagement. So just for a few things you should look at, for example, members of the gallery, it talks talks a little bit about how members of the gallery can speak to the council. And I know there are people here who listen to us who would like to make sure that their democratic right is continued. I noticed that they're allowed to have placards and things within this new rule. So that's interesting. I never knew that was the case, but I'm very happy to do that. That's fine. Another point that it makes, I'll just mention to other councillors, it actually sets a 3-minute limit on councillors' conversation. So that's an interesting one. We've never had that in the past, and I might struggle a little there. But under the Mayor's discretion, you can add another 2 minutes on top. So anyway, look, it sets out the rules of engagement. It marks everything from moving motions, amendments to motions, all that sort of stuff. And look, it is pretty heavy stuff, but I really recommend that people have a good look at it, because it does define how members of the public and indeed councillors will interact with each other. And I think it's a really, really important document. So it's out for draft. We're looking for your commentary. We want to create our own that fits our particular population. So please give us some commentary about local law number 1 in particular, and we shall take that into consideration. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor McCubbin, within the 3 minutes as well. Moving on to item C3.1, Building Quarterly Report, January to March. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that Council note the report of building permits issued from 1st of January 2020 to the 31st of March 2020.
That's seconded, Councillor Rossetti. Thanks, Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to highlight a few things. Our planning department's been very busy. In that quarter, we issued 215 permits, and with an estimated value of just under $37 million. So even in these times, even though it's before COVID, that the Shire was quite busy with issuing 215 permits for $37 million. A couple of things that were important in that period. The Fulham extension is nearly finished. So there's that stage 2 that was continuing there. We had another broiler farm, which is great for our area. More broiler farms, the better. More employment. More locals working and building. We had a Woodside Beach. We had a huge home that was built at Woodside. We had the Boysdale upgrades to the school, among other things. So, yeah, busy time for our permits, and great for the Wellington Shire to keep growing.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. Moving on to item C3.2, Central Gippsland Tourism Quarterly Report, April to June 2020. Councillor Ripper. Councillor Ripper, do you wish to move that report?
I certainly do. I am now audible, Mayor. I do apologise. I'd like to move that Council receive the report from Central Gippsland Tourism, CGT, for the quarter April to June 2020.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Is that seconded by you, Councillor Crossley?
Yes, happy to second that.
Thanks, Councillor Crossley. Is that opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper, do you wish to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. CGT is Wellington's regional tourism body, engaged by the industry to strengthen relationships between tourism boards, council and tourism business in the region. Council commenced a new 18-month Memorandum of Understanding, MOU, with CGT on the 1st of October 2019. The MOU between Council and CGT outlines CGT's key responsibilities, including promotion, tourism attributes and operators, visiting attractions, and the overall Wellington Shire and Central Gippsland region. Now, the Central Gippsland Tourism has, to achieve our vision and perform our role, we are pursuing 5 priority areas over the 12 months. Maximise the reach of the region through alignment with the new Gippsland brand by marketing it central to all marketing activities. Maintain strong relationships and advocate for local operators while driving a collaborative, targeted marketing effort to enhance capabilities and reduce duplication. Achieve greater digital marketing capabilities and effectiveness for Central Gippsland and the tourism industry. Inform and support the local tourism sector by providing media, research, imagery and marketing service to help partners achieve their marketing goals. And establish a viable commercial plan that will guarantee long-term relevance and viability. And I wish this Central Gippsland tourism all the best during these times of COVID-19. I think if we all pull together, those locally, within the COVID-19 guidelines, we can help Central Gippsland tourism achieve their goals. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Moving on to item C4.1, economic stimulus measures in the conservation and land management sector. Councillor Crosley.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'd like to move that Council 1 support state and federal government investment in a jobs-rich conservation and land management stimulus package as part of the economic response to COVID-19, and 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer to write to local, federal and state members of Parliament expressing support for this proposal.
Thanks, Councillor Crossley. Thanks, Councillor Bye. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Crossley.
Thank you. Council received correspondence from the Pew Charitable Trust, which is supported by over 70 farming and conservation groups across Australia, including Landcare, National Farmers Federation, Australian Land Conservation and Australian Social for Bush Regeneration, to name a few. It's seeking our support to approach both state and local government to invest in conservation and land management stimulus out of this, to get a positive outcome from an economic response to the COVID-19. It's a program that would cover many areas that local government is interested in covering bushfire recovery, national park infrastructure, weed control, invasive animal control, tree planting, marine debris cleanup, supporting Indigenous rangers and various areas that are near and dear to our communities. This is a program that, if implemented, would assist many of our local workforces and tradespeople that have been impacted and had their work reduced or even not having it at all, and really be a great way of building Australia's capacity and getting a fantastic both work and economic outcome, but also a terrific environmental outcome. So yeah, very happy that we can support this advocacy role to both our state and federal government, and hopefully we get a good outcome.
Thanks, Councillor Crossley. And now, in fact, we're going to move on to item C4.2, but I think you're going to take your leave at this moment, Councillor Crossley.
So I better say so. Yes, I will take my leave because of my conflict, indirect conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll wait for you to leave the meeting. Moving on to item C4.2, MaCarthur Street and Market Street Roundabout construction.
Councillor Crossley's image is still on the screen, Mayor. Is it? There we go, thank you. Elvis and Councillor Crossley have left the building. I'd like to move, in fact I do move, Mayor, that one, Council adopt the recommendations contained in the attached confidential tender evaluation report of the Council meeting agenda for contract 2020-059, Market and MaCarthur Street Roundabout construction, and 2, the information contained in the confidential attachment F1.1, contract 2020-059, MaCarthur Street and Market Street Roundabout construction for this Council meeting, and designated under section 77 clause 2C of Local Government Act 1989 as confidential by the General Manager, Built and Natural Environment on 3rd July 2020 because it relates to the following grounds in section 892 of the Local Government Act 1989. C, contractual matter be designated confidential information under section 77 clause 2B of the Local Government Act 1989, except that once this recommendation has been adopted, the name of the successful tenderer can be made public.
And you'd like to second that, Councillor McGovern?
Indeed I would, yes indeed.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Rossetti.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. I guess you'll make...
I will indeed, so I can do that after you, or...
Yeah, sure, that's great. I was just, it's quite exciting to have this come through and be coming to the finalisation of it. The fact is we've got 15,135 people in Sale, and if we asked 15,135 people to point out the most dangerous place, I think we'd have 15,135 opinions. This particular intersection, though, actually has got the data. Between 2013 and 2017, there were 6 recorded crashes at this intersection, which included 2 serious injury crashes and 4 other injury crashes. It is a tricky intersection there, and people duck around from the school, they come around from St Paul's. I've seen plenty of funeral corteges go through that intersection with big long lineups. It really, other intersections give us more grief, but this one gives us more danger. So to see this intersection coming through for the roundabout is fantastic. The fact it's actually coming through with funding from the Victorian Government, supported by TAC and Towards Zero, is fantastic, because it means it's not coming out of our budget either. But it'll be involving, it's a single lane roundabout, separated cycling and pedestrian connections, provision of pedestrian refuges, an upgrade of the street lighting at the intersection, and associated landscaping and signage. And we'll keep an eye on the landscaping, make sure it doesn't get too high for some of those people who do take an active interest in council's roadworks and roundabouts. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Rossetti, and I'm pleased to announce that the successful tenderer is Cranes Asphalting and Bitumen Sealing Proprietary Limited. Moving on to item C4.3.
Sorry, Mayor, I've just invited Councillor Crosley back into the virtual meeting. I just sent her a text, so...
Thank you. We'll wait for her to reappear.
Just might take a minute to reconnect, Mayor.
Talk amongst yourselves.
There she is.
Councillor Crosley is back. Moving on then to item C4.3, Lloyd Street North Special Charge Street Construction Scheme, Declaration of Scheme. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move 1. Council, having considered that no submissions were received and no objections were lodged, and having complied with the requirements of section 163A, 163B, and 223 of the Local Government Act 1989, the Act, and otherwise according to law, and having so far as can be ascertained from available records and can reasonably be concluded, ascertained that Lloyd Street North, Stratford Street, or any component of the street has not previously been constructed by way of a special... I'm losing my place here, of a component that's previously been constructed by way of special rate or charge, hereby proceeds to declare a special charge scheme under section 1631 of the Act scheme, in accordance with the declaration of special charge declaration attached to and forming a part of this report, such declaration being for the purposes of constructing the street and providing all and any ancillary works, including underground drainage and vehicle crossings. As we have para 2, para 3, with subparagraphs and 4, I would like to take the rest of that as read. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. You're happy to second that, Councillor Hall?
Yeah, I'd be delighted, Mayor, yes.
Thank you very much. That motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. Lloyd Street in Stratford it's located within the residential area of Stratford. Currently, section of the road between Redbank Road consists of an ill-formed and unsealed gravel pavement of approximately 160 metres in length, with irregular table drains. The formation of this road is primarily of a rural type of a road. The section of the road is managed and maintained by the Wellington Shire Council. A formal investigation of a special charge scheme commenced following ongoing property owner concerns in relation to the maintenance and grading regime for the street, and has included preparation of a concept, designs and cost estimate. Specifically, it is considered that the properties which abut this section of Lloyd Street will derive a special benefit by the proposed upgrade works as a result of it, a reduction in dust, and it's behind the football and cricket ground, which is very important for all our players and our netball players. An enhancement, it will enhance the amenities in the area. It will create an improved riding service, bike riding. So yes, I'll be able to go up that street. I'll be very pleased. Thank you for that. And an improvement in access and egress from properties and an improvement in drainage. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. If we move on to item C 5.1, quick response grants March to June 2020. I understand, Councillor Ripper, you intend to move this?
I do, thank you, Mayor. That Council receives the information regarding applications received under the Quick Response Grant Scheme for the period March to June 2020 as at Attachment 1.
Thanks,
Happy to second that.
Thanks, Councillor Crosley. Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Ripper, wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. The Quick Response Grant Scheme aims to fulfil community need by providing a quick turnaround for funding and provides an opportunity for the community to access funding outside the community grants timeline. The Quick Response Grant Scheme supports the delivery of projects that demonstrate positive impacts on the wider Wellington community. Eligible projects submitted under this program are assessed within 2 weeks. Individuals can apply for a quick response grant of up to $500 under the individual sponsorship category. Not-for-profit community grants operating in Wellington Shire can apply for up to $2,000 from the 3 minor community funding categories: events, projects and facilities. Applications included in this report were assessed between March and June. Thank you. And they are available on the website.
Thanks, Councillor Ripper. Moving on to item C 5.2, Aqua Energy and Gippsland Regional Sports Complex fee relief. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. I move that in acknowledgement of COVID-19 restrictions, impacts, and in order to encourage ongoing participation of physical activities and sport, the Council approves temporary fee relief to Aqua Energy members via application of a 15% discount of membership fees while services are limited or time equivalent added to membership during, and Aqua Energy casual users via retention of 2019/20 fees while services are limited, and Gippsland Regional Sports Complex key user groups either a 15% discount to associations and hockey clubs for the whole of 2021, subject to demonstration of financial hardship, or a 15% discount to associations for half of 2021 and to hockey clubs for their 2021 season.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. I understand that you want to second that, Councillor McCubbin.
Indeed, I do.
Is that motion opposed? If not, the motion is carried. Councillor Bye.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, it's been very hard at our sporting clubs and keeping people active and our kids off the streets. We have to comply with what COVID rules and regulations are. What the state government tells us is what we can offer our facilities to our patrons of the Wellington Shire. We've been lucky enough that we can open Aqua Energy again. The gym's open, the pool's open, and people can go up there and use that facility. Unfortunately, they've been restricted previously, so we're offering a 15% discount to help out with our great patrons up there. Like, say, with GRSC, GRSC, where we're lucky, we've just, this is week 2 of the Basketball Association. So the Junior Basketball Association has 50 teams that are now back and playing, which is fantastic. We have our Hockey Association. It's up to about 80% running on a Saturday now, so it's great for them also to be up and active. We still have 250 participants, though, that cannot partake. That's our social sports, our futsal, our mixed netball, our tiny stars and our 3-on-3 basketball. We still haven't got those up and operational, and that will still be a little bit of time away before we can activate those. We've got to help our clubs and our sporting organisations where we can. It's been hard for them. They haven't been able to run their sausage sizzles, their raffles, and collect the member fees for a full season and even get advertising to help their clubs running into the future. So this is a contribution that we're offering to our patronage and our clubs to help them continue operating. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Councillor Bye. As CEO, we don't have any urgent business.
Sorry, Mayor. Yes, we have one item, Mayor, that came in through the chat room.
We're moving on to gallery and chat room. So we've got a chat room comment.
Yes, Mayor. I apologise. I just got a little bit ahead of myself there. So, Mayor, and councillors, we received and I won't read it out verbatim because it's quite long, but we received a general question from a Mr. Simon Wilson from Warwick. It's in relation to NBN and NBN services specifically as they relate to Warwick. What we'll do, Mayor, is a lot of those questions we probably should refer directly to NBN, but there may be one or two that we can assist Mr. Wilson with. So we'll respond to that, Mayor, and provide a copy of that to all councillors.
Thanks, CEO. I don't know that anyone has a need to move into closed session for anything. I'll take silence as an indication that is not necessary, and if that's the case, on that basis at 6:40, I'll declare the